my first question is, who are you and why are you slightly annoyed?
I am slightly annoyed mixed chick. I'm on Instagram, YouTube. I have a blog. And if my friends don't stop telling me to get on TikTok, I'm gonna strangle somebody. I am not 14 or 22, but I am slightly annoyed because I don't know, I was raised very specifically. I was raised by a single Black father, and he was not just my world, but I remember the very first time I realized that I was Black. I was watching the news. I was like 7 or 8, and I saw some people being arrested, and I saw a white guy be arrested, and whatever, didn't hit me. The minute I saw a Black guy with his hands behind his back in handcuffs, my stomach dropped in, like it just jumped up, and I was nauseous and sad, and I cried. And I've kind of carried that with me my whole life, just about being angry about the inequalities, being angry about the fact that we've been doing this for over 400 years, and we've literally had some snail steps. And I'm an inherently, person to begin with, where I just want to come, that's not okay. Let's fight for the little guy. So my friends crowned me slightly annoyed, because that's all I am. I'm like, 5'1",
Right.
and they're all tall, and they're just like, oh, there she goes again.
Yeah.
Oh, there she goes again.
Yeah.
So the world is a rough place, and I want to do my part to make it a little bit better and help people understand why it is the way it is.
Right. So now, being mixed, well, you can tell me what the mix is, so to speak. But being mixed, how has that shaped you as far as, because you were raised by a Black father, but how has that shaped you as far as your navigation?
So I'm Black and white, and it's so funny because I did my DNA, and I'm literally just Black and white. There's nothing else.
Was it a one sentence answer? Just said Black and white.
Pretty much. It was like, here you go. No other discussions. But no, I sometimes wonder who I would be if my mother had lived, because she died when I was 5.
Right.
So I was exceptionally young. I'd probably be, I don't know, a little different. I'd probably be more in touch with my white family, my white side. And my white family didn't get rid of me because I was, half Black. They loved my dad. They loved me. We just lost touch over the years.
Right.
And as far as I knew, I was just Black. I'm light as hell. I mean, I'm light as hell, and I'm very ambiguous looking to a lot of people. To most Black people, they automatically know what I am, or at least I'm Black mixed with something.
Right.
So it was like in high school when I saw a lot of other mixed people like me, but I realized, we're not allowed to hang out with the white kids. You can hang out adjacent, but you're not one of them. And they're more than happy to let you know you don't belong. And, good or bad, whether it was arguments or whatever, the Black kids saw me as Black. So I've just kind of navigated my life with that. And being as old as I am, there's not a lot of mixed community because I'm part of what's called the loving generation.
Okay.
You know about that, right?
You mean there's from, I want to say it's usually 15-year period, you mean? Like certain different...
Yeah, it was after...
Right.
The Supreme Court ruling in I think it was 1967. So it was an explosion of mixed kids, but that explosion compared to now, so minimal. And when I was growing up, mixed literally just meant Black and white. It didn't mean anything else.
Right.
Now it literally means a mix.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Would you say, would subculture be, would you describe it as as far as the way your connection with people? Because I see I was looking at at some of the podcasts on militantly mixed, and there's like it's a concerted effort to include, like a safe space for mixed people to come and just talk about issues. And I don't like growing up. I never really thought about the issues that mixed kids have or mixed people have. I just didn't. It wasn't something that I thought was, like you said, it's just either black or white. And if you grew up in the black community and you happen to be mixed, you just were raised black. But I didn't look at it as like a different set of problems or a different set of issues. So I just looked at it as, almost that ignorant. Like, well, people are people, and you fall where you fall, and that's what you kind of do. Do you feel like there's like a movement, like I said, like a subculture to find each other and at least share experiences?
I really think there is. I'm a weird member of it because exactly what you said. I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't raised to be biracial. I wasn't raised to be mixed. I was literally raised to be black,
right? Just
light. So I'm a part of it because I am mixed, but I don't always connect the way they connect. One, because a lot of them have two sides. They have both sides to deal with.
Right.
They have both sides to contend with, and I don't. And a lot of them, have a lot of others like them, and they have this effort to connect to both sides, to be both, whatever it may be. And I think it's beautiful because that's what the world is. Human beings change, we morph, we grow, we become different over the years, That's what growth is supposed to be. So this culture, which it is a culture, is growing. Right. And it's finding its way. And where it is now, it might not be there in 20 years because it might be a large minority as opposed to a smaller minority now.
Right.
So I find it interesting. I want to see where it goes. And I'm proud of them for finding each other and me finding them and us connecting.
Right. And you're socially active. So, like, how do you, because I won't compare it to that. Like, how do you find that, because you're mixed or because you're lighter skinned, that you have to, kind of be a little bit, either tougher skinned or a little bit more direct when it comes to people, black people looking at you and going, yeah, it's really not your fight because you're not really all black. So it's not your fight. You got it easy, like that type of stuff. Do you find yourself having a fight for, like a place there to show, you shouldn't have to, but to almost show people like, nah, I'm fighting for the same stuff you're fighting for?
So it's so funny because not on purpose, but my best girlfriends are all black and they love to say it's the light skinned ones that are always the most militant because we got something to prove.
Right.
True. It's very often true. And so for a long time, I did have pushback. For a long time, I was always worried about what I said or what I did because I was afraid I would get the pushback. And I don't know if it's age, getting older. Mm-hmm. I don't care as much because this is my community. It's age, right? Yeah, it's age.
Yeah. You get older.
I don't care.
Yeah, you start, yeah.
You don't give a shit. I'm sorry.
No.
You don't care.
No. You say you don't give a shit. I said it is what it is at this point, So one of the things that I did want to talk to you about, I think I'm going to go with cancel culture first. Because the one thing I really want to talk about is the abuse to prison pipeline. But I'm going to go with cancel culture first. What's your take on currently? Let me just give speak my speech real quick. But the stuff that I've been seeing lately, it's like almost like people are more concerned with cartoon characters and like Disney and stuff being canceled, like their childhoods being ruined, and then they are actual people's lives being canceled. So it's just a weird thing for me to watch people like seem to be so up in arms about. And I've been seeing posts. It's like, oh man, now you're taking, Disney and all these companies that have billions of dollars, and because you want to take out like some of the shit, some of these cartoons that I enjoyed as a kid, I didn't look at it like that. As a kid, you look and you go, this is fun. It's just Tom and Jerry chasing. You forget about the quote unquote mammy in the background. Thomas with the hips and shaking her finger at him. You don't even look at that as a kid, but because that's what you thought, we should be, or that's what you thought you related to in some kind of way. But it's almost like people are, cancel culture is now being used like as a code for like, I wanted to get away with saying slick shit, but now I can't.
I agree. It's so funny. So I have a YouTube video about cancel culture and how cancel culture started with white supremacy. White supremacy is the ultimate cancel culture. And that's kind of, so a lot of times, white people don't know, they were raised in their power. They were raised in their supremacy. So it's not something they have to be aware of all the time or at all. So they don't get actually why they're so upset when these things are being canceled, quote unquote. But what it is the world they grew up in, the world where they're at the top, is slowly being dismantled. And it's the taking of the power out of their spirit hurts them, but they don't get it. They just see it as, you're ruining my childhood, when in reality it is, you're dismantling my power. You're taking away my ability to walk freely in this world without ever having to worry what I say, what I do. And that's also why they push back so much with, oh my God, now you can't say anything.
Right.
It's right. It's not that you can't say anything. It's just you used to be able to say everything.
Right.
And the rest of us had to watch our words. So now you're having to watch your words, and you don't like it because you don't like feeling like we feel. You're getting a taste of what you tell us is perfectly fine, and you don't like it because you knew you'd never like it.
Right.
So, like I said, they're complaining about cancel culture. Well, white supremacy canceled the Native Americans. They've literally canceled so many things in this world to shape the world the way they want it. And now it's turning, and people are pissed. Right. And they're just pissed because what they did for hundreds of years is now coming back.
Right. And the turn is not that big of a turn. It's a slight thing. And I think a lot of the pushback comes from, people who don't feel like they have power. So it's more like, well, I didn't do that to you, or, I have no idea what that is because, I don't see color, or, those type of things where they're not looking at, I think, like I said in the group, I think when we talk about systematic, we're not talking about the average white person next to you is in charge of me and systematically is holding me down. We're talking about a whole system that from the beginning was designed and we weren't really a part of. And I don't know if I sent you to that, but I did an episode. It's called No Lids on the Jar. If you get a chance, check that out. It was like half hour, but I just talked about some things that we went through or as a people. But I think a lot of the pushback too comes from regular average people saying, wait a minute, I didn't do that. My father didn't say that. My father taught me to look at people and treat people, as they are. And it's not, I don't think the fight is with that particular person. I think the fight is with the overall structure. It's hard to get that conversation going because sometimes when you bring up race, people just start rolling their eyes and it's going to tune you out.
It's tough. And so last summer with everything that happened, I had a friend, he's not white, but he wasn't black. So to him, it wasn't that he didn't care. It's just that he didn't understand how it ever affected him. But I knew in his heart who he was. So I knew it was going to be kind of a long a gentle push, a gentle nudge. And at one point, all of a sudden, like a month later, I get a text message and he's like, I fucking hate you. And I said, why? He goes, because I care now. He's like, and I can't get off the internet. And now I'm mad. He's like, now I'm looking at my own culture and how, Asians are oppressed. He's like, what is going on? And I was like, exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, even though I come across as pissed off all the time, I do see that some people, because they've never had to deal with something, they are good people. So this is, if I go, you're a good person, your heart is good, and you're not aware, I'm not going to bombard you and I'm not going to write you off.
Right.
We're going to have little conversations here and there, and I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to hold in my, my anger. I'm going to let you say your piece, and then we're going to slowly work our way. And at some point, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I'm cool. You be you. I'm just not, going to keep trying.
Right.
I just think that some people, yes, I've written some people off because they are willfully, purposely being as ignorant as they can be with no interest. And then there are people where I'm like, okay, you're worth the effort.
Right.
So it isn't the average guy. Like you said, it's not. It's a system.
Yeah. And I think they're getting through to people that you're not holding them accountable for the system. You just want to kick the tires on the system, actually. And I'm a bit of an anarchist, so not literally. I don't want to see buildings crumble and all that stuff, but system-wise, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I guess you do.
I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah. This is gonna be published, so I feel you. But no, I'm more of a like a, I get it though. I get it that things have to come down, but for somebody like me, it's been literally like physically fighting for like half my life, like with people about stuff, and then settling into being a nice square, which I'll say to everybody around me, I'm a square. I enjoy being a square now. That fight is not in me on that. The fight now for me is more like to create, some generational wealth for my family. So, and, I guess you could get jaded sometimes by that grind and not really paying attention to the stuff around you. But a lot of the stuff, like with Corona, everything was in your face. You had nowhere to go. It was like there. So that's the one thing about, COVID that, and as far as like with the cancel culture, I know growing up, I contributed to a lot of, from the information I got at the time, I was part of that, that group of people that felt like at one point, like, man, you can't say nothing. And then, to actually have somebody like kind of go, yeah, but is it right that you want to, like, in what context do you want to be able to say that? I'm not going to say nothing specific, but what context is that? Or somebody particularly, they specifically said, I'm sorry, would you want, and this is going to, this kind of applies to what we're going to talk a little bit later, but would you want somebody saying that stuff to your sister, your mother, or more importantly, your daughters? Then you go,
right.
Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm, now it becomes something different. So I did participate in a lot of, shit talking and a lot of uncomfortable conversations that for me, it was just normal at the time. But looking back, you go, yeah, probably, I'm saying, I almost want to reach out to some people and say, hey, almost like apologize and stuff. I haven't had the guts to do that just yet, but it does make me, rethink a lot of the stuff. So that's where I'm on every level. I'm just trying to figure out and look at things that I did and try to, have a good day today and do better today. 'Cause I definitely know I was part of the problem. Now, what do you say to somebody like me who at one point was part of the problem and is, actively trying to, change at least the narrative in my mind first and then, people around me?
Well, as a female who has been abused in that way, I'm just glad somebody comes to realize and owns their place in it, because it can be small and it can be large. It's a scale. It can be pinching a butt or saying something wrong to literally like raping somebody. It's a scale. But it's hard for people to say I did something wrong. Right. So anybody who says they did something wrong, I'm not going to start jumping on them and yeah, you, and because what I'm trying to get to is get to the guys before, because a lot of guys like you, when they have daughters, or they have that click in their head, would you say that to somebody, if they're your sister, your whatever, I want to get to young men before they have to have that conversation, before they have daughters, where it's a part of them. And the funny thing is because I have a daughter who's now out of high school, and I would tell her some of the stories that was normal in high school. You get your butt pinched,
mm-hmm.
You hear some really, really off the wall shit from guys, and you don't think twice about it because that's just the way it is. That's just expected. And I asked her what it was like in her high school, and she was like, oh my God, no. She was like, absolutely not. I see that they're changing, but there's still enough guys out there that think this is normal behavior, and don't understand the emotional ramifications and the mental ramifications that it does to a young woman, and how it literally changes her whole life.
Right.
And sometimes it can change the path she's on as far as work, careers, family. It can derail her, and a lot of guys, they do whatever they do and they go on about their life, and they don't understand that they're just one of a few or many that have contributed to her falling apart.
Right. So I was going to do like two different topics, but we can kind of include the, talking about calling girls fast, and include that with the abuse to prison pipeline, because it kind of ties in. It was two parts. Yep. You did.
Yeah.
I grew up, the older guys told me, say this and say that, go pinch her butt, stuff like that, or talk about her, and as a kid, you grow up and it's funny, because you're getting the pat on the back, so to speak, from the older cats, and, you're cool, and then and unfortunately, as you get older, you end up passing that information on to other friends and possibly younger friends. And, so it's all, like you said, getting that conversation early. It's almost like it's kind of like what we have to do when it comes to like interaction with police. We want to tell our young boys how to navigate. So it's almost like we got to, we focus on those type of things. I included that because we talk about those things, and that's a public conversation right now, right? Where people are like, hey, I had to tell my son, I don't hear a lot of, I had to tell my son how to interact with their female counterparts. I don't hear a lot of that. It may be just me, but I'm saying I don't hear that conversation.
I don't. The problem is, for me, I don't know either if the conversations are being had. I had that conversation with my son, but I'm a woman. Right. My son was raised around nothing but women, so he was highly aware of his effect on women, and being raised by me, poor baby. Poor baby. I mean, but these conversations are necessary. They're absolutely necessary, because when you call a girl fast, whether she's 5 and she's imitating the dancing that she sees her cousins doing, her older cousins, she's not fast. She's a kid. Yeah. But when you call her fast, you take part of her humanity out of her, and you now make her responsible, even at a young age, for behavior that she, doesn't know anything about. You make these young girls responsible for the abuse that they receive when you call them fast. You put this heavy burden on them, when boys are encouraged to just be boys. Go be a boy. Go, whatever be a boy is. If you do it and it's inappropriate, that's being a boy, which I think is so disrespectful to young men. Mm-hmm. I really believe that is so disrespectful, that the whole adage of go be a boy is only applying to inappropriate behavior. It's it's like, no, I think they're way better than just being inappropriate and disrespectful
Right.
and hellacious.
Yeah.
I think young men are worth more than that. I think they respectful individuals. They can grow up to be, intelligent. They don't have to be the lowest common denominator. And so it's that thing, fast and just, he's a boy being a boy. It it labels and it's negative and it just something we need to remove from our lexicon, and it's cultural. It is
For
so
sure.
cultural.
For
Being
sure.
called fast,
Oh, yeah, well, that's.
so cultural.
I remember clearly we would be outside as kids, and kids, you're just hanging out and playing. You're not you talking or laughing, and nothing inappropriate going on. And somebody's aunt or their grandmother or something like that come to that door. Girl, get in this house. Stop being fast. And we all made a joke of it and laughed and stuff, and we probably clowned the girl the next time we saw her. But we didn't. There was no context for that us with that. We knew what it was, but we didn't know the gravity of like what she actually just said to all of us. The message is clear as I get older now that the onus was on the girl to behave a certain way, but there was nothing that said anything about the boys in their behavior or potential behavior. Even though, like I said, at that particular time, we just playing popsies against the wall, throwing the ball against the wall and catching it, and but it was because it was boys around. It was like a chastising, and sometimes a smack in the head on the way inside or a smack on the butt for the girl on the way inside the house. You don't, as a kid, you don't think about that message, but again, like I said, having daughters and I have a son as well, I got to teach him things that things that I'm learning now, things that I know I can apply to, people in my life in general, whether it's a nephew, a son, or a younger, brother or whatever, just somebody I know, but I do remember just girls, the onus being on the females all the time. It's all, and it's like that. I was having a heated discussion yesterday, and it's like that because I at this stage of my life, I feel like, if you are putting expectations on somebody, and you both don't have the conversation about what the expectations are, or simply something like buying somebody a drink or whatever. If you just say to the woman, well, listen, you have to do this, and to ensure your safety. And then for the guys, you just have to say, well, listen, man, if she get up to the room, then you know what that means. Where meanwhile, you told the females, you got to watch your drink. You got to, keep an eye on the drink. You got to order your own drink. You can't laugh too much. You can't lean. You can't touch. You can't do this. You can't do that. And you definitely can't go in the room. With the guy, it's almost kind of like, all right, well, you just got one or two things that you need to do, and then you home free. It's just a weird conversation. Mm-hmm. It's just a weird, dynamic that, we really put a lot of emphasis. I'm probably gonna get killed for, I'm simping right now. You know what I'm saying, for being a simp right now. But I just, I look at things different now.
I agree. I mean, so that whole where it goes from fast to abuse to prison pipeline is so connected, and we don't get it. Because the minute you call a girl fast, you sexualize her. Right. And you sexualize her to everyone in the room and in the vicinity. And I know when I would, visit my family in Texas or even here, nothing stays within four walls.
Oh, no.
Everything. The minute you call a girl fast, everybody knows. All the little boys know. Mm-hmm. And what was it? It's 80% of the girls that are in juvenile correction centers have been abused and or sexually abused prior to incarceration. Mm-hmm. So those things are so connected, because when you sexualize young girls and you put the onus on her for her own safety and or not just safety, but if she is abused, she brought it on herself when you call her fast.
Right.
You literally tell her, if you hadn't been fast, he wouldn't have done X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So you put that in her head. And as human beings, someone hurts you, you want to fight back. And if you can't fight back, You get angry and you fight back at whoever you can fight back at. So if that's other kids at school, you're fighting.
Yeah.
If that's other boys you see, you're fighting. You're fighting your teachers, you're fighting everything because one, we stigmatize speaking about sexual abuse. We stigmatize coming out and saying something happened. So these girls are walking around with this horrible story inside of them. And a lot of times they're having to see the perpetrator constantly. And why would you not act up, act out,
right,
lash out? And most most juvenile detention centers for young girls don't even have a mental health counselor. So you're sticking them in there. You've now taken away their freedom. So you've told them that they're responsible for what happened to them. And now they're criminals. And you don't even have someone to sit down and talk to them about it. There was actually a story I read where there was this young girl and the corrections officers kept telling her to sit down. And she was fighting and she didn't want to sit down. And they were like, you're going to get extra charges if you keep fighting and you refuse to sit down when you're told to sit down. So the next week, that particular juvenile detention center had piloted a program and was giving girls iPads to write down what had happened to them so they didn't have to say it out loud. Because
right,
sometimes saying it out loud is the most painful thing you could ever do. And it came out that right before she came in that prior week, she had been sexually assaulted and she had had some mutilation done to her genitals. She literally couldn't sit down.
right.
It physically hurt. So she was about to get extra charges for being in pain. Or there's many states where girls as young as 13 years old are being arrested for prostitution. Right. You're going to tell me a 13-year-old girl willingly became a prostitute just had a good home, happy life, things were wonderful. And she said in her 13-year-old watching, I don't know, what do 13-year-olds watch anymore? I don't know. My kids are too old. But whatever they do, she said, no, that sounds like a better idea. No. Girls at 13 who are prostitutes are there for horrible reasons. And now you're arresting her and you're letting the guy who tried to pick her up go?
Right. And even if you arrest them both, the fact that she has that on her record, that's where it all starts. Once you start, because that allows for that's like a broken windows thing. That allows for for the next thing to add on to the next thing. And, I think, it's, to me, like I said, I'm not hearing the conversation, but it's I don't know. To me, it's important. It's important for women to speak out, but it's important for men to really, if you have a daughter, man, I can't see how, if you have any kids, but if you have a daughter, I can't see how this stuff would sit well with you. And if you know the outcome of this stuff, the statistics are there, right? You can find the statistics, you can find the story, you can find the anecdotal stories. So it's just tough for me to like I said, to sit back and listen to some of this stuff and then not at least feel some kind of way, at least want to speak out a little bit. So I'm surprised. Like I said, I listen to a lot of stuff. I listen to, depending on the week, but I'm on my Black Power shit in one week, I'm listening to this particular thing. I'm listening to women's issue stuff, another week. So, and like I said, I don't really hear this particular conversation. I don't really hear it being championed out there like some of the other stuff. I hear a lot of others. Like I said, we talking about cartoons. People are talking about cartoons. I see a couple of people who are doing things for homeless women, the care packages with, products for women and stuff like that. But that I don't see that come across my feed, and maybe it's just my algorithm. But I don't see these type of things. So I'm still kind of taken aback that some of this stuff goes on, and we just really not, we got to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, but we have to be able to, somehow juggle all these issues. And maybe this week something else will be in the forefront, and the week after that we'll push something else. But we have to be able to have these conversations.
There's a real maybe simple explanation as to why we don't have these conversations, and we never had them in the past either, is because when you call a girl fast, you objectify her. When you objectify her, what do you do with objects? What do you do with a can of Coke? You pick it up, you buy it, you drink it, you're done, you throw it away, and you don't think about it again.
Right.
You've used it. So when you make women objects, legitimate objects, at whatever age, incredibly young to grown-ass women, when you take the humanity out of them, when they're no longer people like your people, they're no longer, a person with thoughts and feelings and complexities. They're just there to be bought or picked up, used, and thrown away and forgotten. And when you're thirsty, you go get another one.
Mm.
There's no conversations because you're not thinking about it as a person. You're just thinking about it as an object. So no one ever stops to think, oh, I need to talk about that thing I objectify. Because when women stop being things and start being people, then that conversation will happen. But we are still things.
Right.
We are human trafficking. It's things. Yeah. Things.
That's almost like, that reminded me like of a war tactic where militaries dehumanize the enemy because it's easier to, kill them and not think of them as, a man or similar to the situation where we dehumanize people in uniform because they just become uniforms. We don't look at, like, for instance, a police officer or somebody as a person that has a wife and kids. We kind of just go, we don't look, or we put a uniform on, people of color, somebody black, you look at them, you don't look at them. Some people, because we're criminalized, we don't look at, well, some people don't look at us like as we're human. Mm-hmm. And it's easy for them to just say, well, he should have complied, but it's as opposed to saying, man, I'm just driving home. Comply to what? I'm getting off work, or I just want to go to the park, whatever it is. I want to move freely. So it's like I said, it's almost like a war tactic. And as a people, like, I mean, are we cognizant that we're doing that to our, you know what I mean? Are we really just allowing it? Are we, how are we, I mean, you might not be able to answer the question, but how are we allowing this to, how are we allowing ourselves and this to go on?
So I don't know if you know about the documentary. I think it was the Stanford Prison Project, and they do have a movie, real good. It came out in, I think, 2015 or something, but they took just students, and the students signed up, and you were either a corrections officer or you were a prisoner, and they decided to do this for 2 weeks, and they literally built a jail in the basement. And they allowed these people, they had rules. You can't touch them. You can't do this. You can't do that to the corrections officers. And they stopped it after a week because it was so horrible. The dehumanization of these quote unquote prisoners, and just the way the power went to the, fake corrections officers' heads was too much.
Right.
There was mental assault, there was physical assault, there was emotional assault, all the things they weren't supposed to do. And that's the problem, is when humans get a taste of power, because most people have felt powerless at one point in their life. So when you're given a taste of power and you've felt powerless, it helps you stand up tall because you weren't given tools to just for yourself, by yourself, feel powerful. So something outside gave you power, and it's filling whatever empty hole you have. So immediately you become better than. I'm better than. Someone picked on me once, but now I'm better than something else. And you elevate yourself and you lower someone else down. And that's exactly what you said. My son is in the Army. And we had a conversation because I think he was about to go in, and I was like, are you going to be okay if you are sent, to war and you've got to do something terrible to another human being? And he literally was like, Mom, I don't know. He was like, because I can't imagine. He's like, I just hope not. He's like, Mom, because I don't know. Even the thought was scaring the crap out of him because I had taught him that no matter what, people are still people. You cut them off if you need to, but they're still people.
Right.
Even the people I don't like.
She got two fists up right now.
Ooh, even the people that I'm just like, ooh, the GOP. Ooh, Mitch McConnell. He's still a person. That hurts me to say, but he's still a person. I don't like your policies. Your policies are hurting my people.
Right.
But shit, you're still a person. So I don't know. It's hard. It's a weird dichotomy.
Yeah.
We don't humanize people. We expect people to humanize us.
Right. And also like and along those lines, when it comes to young ladies, the ones that develop a little earlier seem to be targeted a little bit more. I don't know statistically. I'm just saying that's from me, my observation. Is that something that you noticed in your research?
Well, firsthand.
In your
one of those girls.
Yes, in your personal research.
Yeah, and it was because whether it's implicit or it's subversive or explicit, boys are taught that, oh, if she's got boobs and a big ass, she's asking for it. Like somehow nature made this decision that she wants to be touched. She wants to be pushed up on, right. Because one thing we don't do is teach our boys to control themselves.
Right.
Hormones are real. Those are no goddamn joke.
For sure. For sure.
And you're coupling undeveloped minds with raging hormones, and no one's sitting down going, I get it, but this is how we have to behave. I know what you feel. And when you see that girl, I know what you're thinking, because I was there too, or I'm there now when I see women of my age, please. But we got to behave like this. Right. And that's the talk you're talking about.
Yeah.
We're letting these undeveloped minds with these adult-like emotional feelings and sexual feelings just go out into the world amongst girls who've developed and just go, they'll figure it out.
Right.
They're idiots. They're stupid. They're not going to figure shit out.
Listen, I want to add that being an idiot never stops. I'm just here to tell you that there is no age limit on that. I think we're idiots. I don't see no light at the end of the tunnel at this particular point for me. So it goes on forever. I'm just saying. So the best, I was going to say the best thing to do is just kind of, when you see me, wandering off, looking cockeyed, slap me in the head to, put me back on the right track.
And the thing is, a lot of times by the time the girl reaches 12 or 13, if she seems quote unquote fast, if she seems to be sidling up to those boys, if she seems to be winking and flirting and far more sexual for her age, more than likely she's already been sexually abused.
Right.
Or there's something going on in her life where she needs some form of fulfillment. She needs some form of love. And she's looking for it in literally all the wrong places because she doesn't know any better.
Right. Yeah. If you,
so as adults too, though, we look at that girl and we're like, look at her.
Oh, yeah.
Look at her little fast ass.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Yep. I would never let my kid dress like that. Or I never, certain things where, it's and like I said, we know it, and we definitely wouldn't want to be judged like that. But for whatever reason, we can't seem to click that switch to say, nah, that's not cool, that's not right. Especially when it comes to other people's kids. We love to look at other people's kids and go, I seen her the other day. Every time I see her, she, or teachers do it, other kids do it. We assume things about people, just by who they're standing next to. You have to see anything or have any concrete evidence. It's whoever you're standing next to that becomes, who we associate you with behavior with no proof, no proof at all. We just, kind of, in the girls who are more developed find themselves kind of like trying to cover themselves up a little bit more or wear baggier clothes but it's just, a lot of it you just can't hide. So if she can't hide it and she can't, overcompensate with clothes, then the conversation needs to be had with the boys. So no matter what somebody's wearing or whatever.
I think everybody needs to take and teach our kids responsibility for their part in something. And like you said, the laundry list of what we tell our young girls to keep them safe. The problem is we're telling them about someone else's behavior, but we're not telling the person whose behavior they're terrified of.
Correct.
Growing up, don't do these things. These things aren't okay. The fact that a young lady had to develop nail polish that changes depending upon the drug, she can dip it in her drink and her nail polish will change. If there's like a roofie in there, if there's something in there. And I remember in my mid-20s being at a club and all of a sudden I started feeling funny and I was like, oh shit, I think my drink was spiked. You know what I mean? But no one's having that conversation with boys going, don't do that.
Right.
Like if you can't get a date, you just can't get a date,
right,
dude.
It shouldn't
Let's work on that.
Yeah, there should be a market for the pills. You know what I'm saying? The fact that there's somebody like, hey, man, you ain't got to do no work. Just take this. That's just,
right.
It's just, I don't know. I don't like to use the word crazy, but it's crazy that, and it's not, I don't want to make it seem like it's something new because, even if you like go back to what we perceive as like the Stone Age or when cavemen were there, the perception was, to just beat them over the head and grab them by the hair and pull them into. So stuff has been in your head as a little boy that, certain things are acceptable, or just from, a lot of, we grew up in the 80s, a lot of the 80s movies with the construction workers, whistling at the girls, or even the videos, we've grown up in that culture where, we go, oh, what's the problem? Now we can't whistle at girls. And, this is just bring it all full circle with the cancel culture and, the abuse to prison pipeline, how we objectify girls. It's all just really, I want to say it's like a 4-part, not even 4-part, because I'm sure there's more data and more information that you could connect to it. It's all interconnected. It's interesting. But I don't know, man. It feels like we got a long way to go too.
We do. I'm encouraged when I talk to my kids. So I have a 19-year-old in the Army, and I have a soon-to-be 21-year-old this month. She's in college. And when I would talk to them, my son had for 2 years, his junior and senior year, he did this class in school, and it was a mental health class. And it was to teach just mental health tips, but also how to see each other as human beings, and how to connect to your emotional side.
Right.
And he became a different person. And you can call him a simp if you want, because his friends call him a simp all the time. But it's different. And my daughter tells me in college, boys are still boys and frat parties are still frat parties.
Right.
But it's becoming less and less people.
Right.
The numbers are growing. And at some point, yes, society will change. And I know for a lot of people, it's a scary fucking thought, because they like the way their world is. They love the way things are, and change terrifies human beings to begin with. But it's changing, and it's changing slowly, but it is changing.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah, we grew up in an era where I don't know if you played this, but there was a game called Hide and Go Get.
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay.
there was an it on. It was hide and go get it. That's what we called it.
Okay.
But yeah, we played that. Well, you know what? Let me just be honest. I watched those other kids play that, and I wouldn't partake in that. Okay, you're not buying that.
No. I will tell you though, I was so unattractive in junior high that when we played it, no one came and got me.
You were chasing people around, just like, hey,
I was like, come get me. I'm here. I'm not hiding. But like, no, it's just thinking about your child playing that game. And yes, children are going to experiment. Children are going to try to kiss each other. But there's safer ways to do it where people's emotional well-being are not destroyed.
Yeah, yeah.
And that comes to those conversations.
Yeah, for sure.
And not just conversations with the kids, adults. We need to start telling adults to stop encouraging this behavior in your children and in your young cousins and your young whatever.
Or correct it when you see it, at least. If you see something, it's not just a quick little, like you said, it's not just a quick little pick up, drink it and put it down. Now, it has to be ongoing. This has to be ongoing like you would anything. Like you approach everything. You approach finances, or you approach, job, looking for a job, or whether you go to college or whether you get a trade. Like, this stuff has to be ongoing conversations, part of our daily to-do list when we see things. Or even if you don't see something, just have a conversation. Just, hey, pick the kids' brains. Like, I got into some of these newer rappers because my daughter is 12, and it's like this emotional rap that's out. And I'm from the 80s and 90s. So we a little bit grumpy about our hip hop. Like, that ain't real hip hop. They just mumbling and this and that. But I have a 12-year-old who's into it. So guess what? I want to hear it too. I want to listen to it, and so I can have the conversation with her. So she feels comfortable, whatever's going on, she can come to me and say, hey, because I was talking to her about this particular, me talking to you, and she was like, yeah, I just pop a boy in his face if he touches me, and it was kind of good to hear, I must admit, I was happy to hear that. But, I shared with her that I was having a conversation. I directed her to, your page, because there may be some stuff that, hearing from me, it might resonate, but sometimes hearing it from, female, she can look at it and go, oh, and then it can, hopefully she can delve down into the rabbit hole of information and carry that with her. But yeah, I was glad to hear that she's ready to punch somebody in the face if they touch her inappropriately. So
yes. Yes. I'm in therapy. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't tell you, but there's a response.
All right.
So I found out that instead of just fight or flight, there's also what's called fawn. And fawn is, unfortunately, when someone just lets whatever happen, and then they move on because they're so terrified. And it's good to hear that your daughter's response would be fight.
Right.
Or even flight. But there are people out there, girls and boys, because boys are being sexually assaulted too.
For sure.
Where their response is fawn. And that's terrifying, because they're also going to carry that into their everyday life for the rest of their life. Right. And their response to everything is fawn. And unfortunately I am a fawn. So I've carried that in my life, even in work, and the mental stress that someone who's just like, get it over with, I just want it to end. More than likely, they also don't talk about it. They're less likely to talk about, they're less likely to seek help.
Right.
So it once again, it goes back to those conversations with, the boys and with people in general about being responsible for your behavior, and not just being responsible for the outcome of your behavior.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. I wouldn't say that I'd say the transition for me was at one particular stage, I was more of a fawn, just kind of letting things go, and under the auspice of, I'm good, man, I'm good, I can handle it, and that comes back. Like, I'm here to say that comes back big time if you don't deal with the stuff, if you don't deal with it somehow, if you just let it kind of sit there on you. I'm glad to say that I've been through therapy as well. So, but you know, unfortunately, the therapy came after, you know, the explosion, where, you know, you actually go, man, you know, that's another thing too. That's a couple of conversations for another day, because I definitely want to explore with the issues on the male side of it, and also too, I want to explore our community and their history with therapy, and you know, that pushback on, you know, getting, you know, we grew up, you know, along with the fast talk about the girls is, you know, he just need his ass whooped. You know, he all right. He get his ass whooped. He need to sit down somewhere. That's all he need. He don't, you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of, you know, just a lot of different layers of why we are where we are, along with, you know, the oppression that we experienced historically. But it's definitely, I definitely think that we have to continue to have the conversations. I don't see how we get to where we want to get if we just gonna keep whistling and walking down the street and pretending like, well, look, shit, I got a house, because I got a house. I'm all right. You know, I got my car. I got my house. I mean, hey, what's the problem? Obama was president. Why y'all, you know, what y'all doing?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
definitely got to continue to have the conversations. The people on the ground like you see the suffering more than the people who actually, you know, are just in their ivory tower, so to speak. They don't see it, or they look at it and go, look at them, as opposed to, you know, that's actually my people. That's us. And what can I do to help?
I wrote a blog piece actually about how we are failing our young men by, you know, telling them when they're little, you can't cry, don't cry, be a man, suck it up. And then we send them out into this world and we're mad at them because they took all those lessons we taught them, and we taught them to repress how they feel, and we taught them not to feel, and we taught them that real men, you know, step up first and think later. And then we ask them, well, why can't you behave like this? Well, when the hell did you tell them to behave like this?
Right.
You did. You told them the opposite, and now you're holding them responsible. So at some point, I want to turn that blog piece into a video. Very soon, I want to add that to, you know, the abuse to, well, the school to prison pipeline and all of that I'm working on now, because we need to talk about that.
For sure.
We need to talk about how we create and we dehumanize our little boys, you know, to stand up and be grown men, and with this weird idea of what a grown-ass man is. Because when you reach an age, you're a grown-ass man no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
You are. You're a grown. Guess what? You're a grown-ass man.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell him that he can't feel, that he has to behave a certain way, that he has to do these things and stifle him, and that makes him a man. Nope. Right. He's a man. When he's a man, he's a man.
Yeah, legally, and you know, we're not doing the Benjamin Button thing, going backwards. Legally,
right?
You going, and before you know it, if you're, you know, if your mental capacity is stunted, and you never really got out of that being that 16-year-old kid, next thing you know, you're 36, and you know, you still have some of the same traits. And I'm not saying that you need to change dramatically, but there's nuance to, you know, how you navigate through life. And unfortunately, for us, I don't feel like we do enough of the conversation, at least constructively. You know, we can criticize each other, but I mean, being constructive, I think, is a big deal as well, because I didn't receive information if you were talking down to me. I didn't hear it. That just made me want to argue back. You know, I wanted to debate. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to debate you on that. I'm not really, you know, so that's why I was joking. Like, yeah, I'm simping out here trying to, you know, looking like I'm trying to, but I promise I will get to the male part of it for sure.
It's so funny because a little off the rails, but it's similar to a conversation I have with people all the time. Well, they'll talk about a black guy we know, and it's always a guy. It never seems to be a girl, and they're like, oh, he's really white, and he's not really a black guy. Right. And I'm like, you know what? Don't do that. I'm like, because guess what? When he's driving down the street and he gets pulled over by the cops, guess what? He is a black man. Yeah. And don't equate education, and being, literate and being able to speak eloquently with being white.
Right.
Because what you've done on the other hand is said, if you're black, you're ignorant. If you're white, you're intelligent.
Right.
Don't do that.
Yo, 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 yo. Like that. I'm
right,
black now.
Like,
yo, yo.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that shitty stuff. It's like, don't do that. A black man is a black man.
Right.
And if he's a professor or he's, he's a sweeper out in the streets, or, he's a rapper or he's a doctor. Guess what? All of them are black men.
Correct.
That's what they are.
Correct.
And if he likes rock music or he likes rap, if he's into simp music or not, he's still a black man, because guess what the world sees?
Yeah.
A black man.
That's what my podcast is about. When for me, I'm, I like, Marvel comics and I was watching Godzilla versus King Kong, and did you see it?
Oh yes, okay, I did, and okay. Don't even get me started.
No, we could talk.
I was not happy.
After we done recording, we could talk a little bit if you got some time. All right. So, how do we follow you and follow your journey in your social media?
The beauty of it is it's all the same name.
Mm-hmm.
So my YouTube, my Instagram, my blog are all Slightly Annoyed Mixed Chick. I did a search last night just to see, and it all pops up. If you type that in, everything pops up. I do have a second Instagram that's run with 2 other people. I don't really contribute that much, but it's great. It's called 2.5 Black Women. I'm the half. And it's phenomenal.
Is it the number 2?
Yeah, number 2 and a half. So number 2 and then and a half. So you can find me all of those. I pretty much everything I talk about, let's say in my blog, will eventually make its way to my YouTube and my Instagram. I like to touch on what's currently going on, and I like a lot of feedback. If people ask me to talk about something, I talk about something.
Okay.
I want to hear what people want to talk about. So I invite everybody to come and say their piece too. I am not here to not hear people's opinions.
Right.
If you don't like what I have to say, okay, we can have that conversation, because I'm a person. I'm not perfect.
All right. Thank you for coming and giving me some of your time. I didn't even ask you, where you in California, correct?
Yeah.
What part of California are you in?
I'm outside of San Francisco. I actually moved here from Boston, though.
Okay. Yeah, that's Boston to San Francisco is I'm in Connecticut, so I'm close to that. That seems like a bit, a big leap. Well, how did you get that? How'd you get there?
So I was born in Seattle when it was time for college. Yeah, I'm just going to put it out there. Okay, New Kids on the Block. Donnie Wahlberg was in Boston. So I said, I'm going to find a college in Boston. I'm going to meet Donnie and I'm going to marry Donnie. That did not happen at all. So that's how I got to Boston. And I stayed there from 92 to 2017.
Oh, man. Couldn't end it more perfect than that.